Ladies and gentlemen, this video is being recorded in January of 2025, late at night, in case you cannot tell. Stockfish, at the moment, is the most powerful chess computer in the world. Now, that name may mean nothing to you, but Stockfish is more powerful than Leela, more powerful than AlphaZero, and more powerful than Torch. And if Stockfish meant nothing to you, those names definitely don't mean anything to you. Welcome to the Chessbot world. But in this video, Stockfish will meet its toughest challenge yet. Welcome back to the Chatbot Chess Championship. We started with 8. Stockfish versus Snapchat, Grok versus Gemini, Copilot versus Martin from chess.com, and ChatGPT versus Meta AI. This is day 5 of 7. This is the first semifinal match. It's Stockfish versus Grok, and the winner will move on to face the winner of Copilot and ChatGPT. And soon we will crown the first ever, and maybe the last one ever, because we don't do this again, Chatbot Chess Champion. Folks, if you haven't been following along, there's a playlist. You can check in on all the action. Everybody take a deep breath. Keep in mind, Stockfish is up against it. Stockfish is playing a demon, an entity so powerful, it can transform and fly in pieces from all across the world. Stockfish opened with pawn to e4. Grok had black for a second game in a row. That's just how the pairings work. Stockfish is better, so it changes color. That's the official ruling. e5, Stockfish had the black pieces in the first round. Now, e5 is also the opening that Grok chose to defeat Gemini. Zuck versus Elon. Never mind. Gemini is Google. Sundar Pichai versus Elon. Knight f3. Knight c6. Bishop b5. This is the Spanish opening. The Ruy Lopez, an ancient opening. Played for 400 years. And if you're watching this in 2105, instead of, 2025, whatever many years that is, plus 80. Bishop to b5, a6 is the Morphy defense. And we are following the exact game that Grok played against Gemini already, with one exception. After castling, this pawn can be taken, and it would go into an open Spanish, open Ruy Lopez, if you will. But instead, we have bishop e7. And now, in this position, in its first round matchup, just like in World Championships, d3 and c4 was the setup that Gemini chose in that game. But here, Stockfish plays rook to e1, the main line Spanish. This is the main line Ruy Lopez, centralizing the rook. Now, white has two plans. Either play for c3 and d4, or d3, knight c3, and play a little bit of a slower approach. Black also has two plans. Play d5 in one move, or play d6, and then develop your position. After rook e1, black played b5, attacking the bishop. The bishop went back to b3. Stockfish is very principled. And now we see a commitment from Grok. Grok here can play castles and d5. That is called the Marshall counterattack of the Ruy Lopez or the Spanish. It's a favorite of Magnus Carlsen and other very, very strong players. But instead of that, we have the immediate commitment to the d6 square. We have c3 chosen. White is going for that approach. Castles. And now right before you play d4, it would be a mistake at the moment. But right before you play it, you need to prevent the bishop from going to the g4 square, pinning the knight to the queen, and obviously relinquishing some control of the center, which is why in this position, white generally plays h3. And now, black has many options. Black can play knight a5 and c5. That is the main line variation. There is also rook e8, bishop f8, the Zaitsev variation. There is bishop to b7, another approach. There is also knight to b8. This looks ridiculous. This is a crazy move. Who would play like this? Put the knight on d7 to support the center, and then put the bishop on b7. Knight b8, as ridiculous as it looks, is called the Breyer variation. B-R-E-Y-E-R. It is a real thing, and Grok employing the Breyer variation, an opening not seen in top-level play all too often anymore. It's a little bit too passive. And pawn to d4 is the principled approach. Now here, again, this is only jumping up because it thinks it's white to move, because we are on a fake analysis board. So do not worry. The position is still equal. But now Grok messes up. After knight to b8, you have to go here. You have to defend the center before finishing with bishop to b7. But instead of playing that, after white plays d4, Grok plays pawn takes, and c5. And now, as we see from the evaluation, it is a comfortable 1.0. That means that white is better after c5. This is not a good position. Black should not have played like this. And now white plays knight c3, and now the engine thinks it's +2 because it, again, thinks it's white to move. Don't worry about that. Knight c3, we have pawn takes d4, and we have knight takes d4. But this is a fantastic position. Stockfish has absolutely succeeded here. Why? Because if you look at black's position, black has 3 islands of pawns. 2, 1, and 3. White has a 2 and a 4, and this pawn is just a weakness. When you have a pawn like this, whose neighbors have left it, and whose square in front of it is controlled by the opponent, that is called a backwards pawn. It's a pawn with no defenders that also is very easy to target. That is what white is going to target. White's going to go here and here and here. And actually, white's not going to do any of that because in this position, Grok plays knight c6. And now we skyrocket. It is plus 4.9. Stockfish is like, what is this? Who brought me this piece of meat to consume? Medium rare with a beautiful garnish on it. Maybe some veggies on the side, mashed potatoes. It's winter season. We're bulking out here. Speaking of bulking, I actually would like to give a little public service announcement to all of you. I have never been a particularly strong guy most of my life. I can play some sports. I do some running and so on. But I have been consistently, along with my wife, going to the gym for the past year. And in the past year, I have raised all of my lifts by 50 to 100 pounds. I don't know what that is in kilograms. But for example, my bench PR is 85 kilos, 86 kilos, 185 pounds. I've never been able to do that in my life. My shoulders, my chest, I did that backwards. It's all gotten bigger. I couldn't fit into some suits recently. Let me tell you something right now. You think fitting into pants is bad, not being able to fit. There is no more humbling feeling and amazing feeling than not being able to put on a suit. So my public service announcement to all of you as a relatively unathletic individual is go to the gym. You're going to feel great. Now, anyway, back to our regularly scheduled programming. So knight to c6 is not a good move because it just straight up gives away a knight. Stockfish was not born yesterday. Knight c6, and yeah, white is just absolutely winning. White is winning. White is up a knight. White is also going to grab a bishop on the way out, or maybe a queen if you blunder it. But in this position, Grok plays b takes c6. And suddenly the universe shook. And Stockfish realized it was playing with an entity that has otherworldly abilities. It is playing with an entity that controls pieces from multiple dimensions. And Stockfish does not have this luxury. As powerful as it is 3,700 elo in our world, not the one that this alien is from. So here it started to utilize its pieces once again, playing bishop to f4, and immediately, when the opposing side tried to play on its own with bishop to d7, it made a huge mistake. That move disconnects the queen from the defense of the pawn on d6, and we have bishop takes d6, and Stockfish is back in business. A very, very, very quick turnaround time. Bishop takes d6 on the board. But in this position, something insane happens. You think just bishop takes, queen takes, we all live happily ever after, but the queen jumps over the back of the bishop and takes the bishop on d6, and now Stockfish has not gone back to equal. Stockfish is worse, and its best move is to trade the queen and go here. And Grok plays bishop e5, rook e5. And we take a look at this position, the all-powerful Stockfish, the computer to beat all computers, and it's in an endgame. And the secret to beating Stockfish in this format, just take all of its pieces. You see, these bots possess something Stockfish does not. They've got the Resurrection Stone, one of the Horcruxes. I might have just spoiled Harry Potter for anybody watching that's under 11 years old and for some reason hasn't read the book or watched the movie. So you just forget I said that. I don't even know what I just said. I just blab, you know, go to the gym. Ha ha ha, I'm GothamChess. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, just take all of Stockfish's pieces. It's not going to be able to resurrect anybody. And Stockfish doesn't know that. That is the heartbreaking thing about this. Rook E8 is played by Grok. By the way, a miracle it's still like playing legal moves and not doing something insane. And Stockfish plays F4. And its logic of playing F4 is like, well, if you take my rook, I'm going to go here and target your knight, and then your knight can't really come to the middle. But Grok doesn't have complicated thoughts. Grok is like my puppy, okay? He's just like, oh, a chew toy? Fantastic. Rook takes E5. But what this tragic conclusion of this game is going to be, Stockfish is simply going to run out of pieces. It only plays with what it has on the board. It's time to win and qualify to the final, and the revenge game against ChatGPT is quickly running out. The knight goes to d5. Of course, it didn't have to go to d5. It could have gone to e8 or h5. Now the major question. Do you take this with the knight and then with the bishop? A lot of you would do that because you would say, take, 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 and I attack the rook. Look at me. I'm such a genius. My opponent's a moron. My opponent's going to blunder the rook. But that's not necessarily the right approach. You actually could take with the knight. Having a knight in the endgame is trickier. Generally, it's not recommended, but guess what? In this position, that is exactly what Stockfish does. And after pawn takes and knight takes, we have this position to work with. Both sides have 5 pawns each. One side relies on the rules of chess. The other side relies on whatever it relies on. Grok here plays rook f8. Now, Grok here could have hung like everything. Grok could have went here, which would have blundered knight e7 fork. And that's actually a very natural move here for humans to take control of the file. Grok could have played, rook d8, which also would have been pretty, passive, not necessarily. Rook f8 is a completely safe move. I mean, I have to give Grok respect. Rook f8. Stockfish plays knight to e7 check. The idea of this move is to force the king to the corner. It is good in the endgame, especially deep endgames like this one, with rooks, knights, not queens, to force kings to be passive, whereas our kings are closer to the center, right? They need to be part of the action. The other benefit of this is that you open up the d file, and after knight e7 check, there is rook d1, and now white is in business. Again, it thinks it's +5 because it thinks it's white to move. Don't worry about that. The bishop can go here, and the game will go on. But in this position, tragedy struck because you never know when Grok is going to explode. And here Grok played bishop takes knight. And the eval bar has fallen off the face of the earth because white is down a bishop with just rooks and pawns remaining. All black has to do now is make a fort so that the king is not checkmated on the back rank. Be careful about that, beginners. And then the rook comes in and eats. The rook eats. White cannot defend the pawns. Black now has the better pawn islands. Earlier it was white. Now it is black with the better pawn islands. This is a weakness. That is a absolutely heartbreaking gut punch. That was a cheap shot. And Stockfish just has to bring its king forward. It doesn't have another option. And as if that wasn't bad enough, Grok plays rook f5. It couldn't be happy and satisfied once. And it plays rook f5 check, king e3, and rook takes e5 check. And now Grok is this is just nonsense. Now here, I really, really had a feeling that in this position, Stockfish would grab the rook, and at the very least, maybe it would get a mate. It would get one of these two things because Grok has found itself in a little bit of a weird situation. The king is on the back rank. Bishop is barely holding. But what I didn't realize is Grok's rook went out for a mission, took the pawn, and got straight back into its private jet and flew all the way back to f8. And all hope is lost. The only thing remaining in this position is this rook delivering a checkmate to the black king on the back rank. And you best believe Stockfish is going to go for it. It plays rook to d7 with the idea to take the bishop, and if this is going to start eating some pawns or something like that. But Stockfish didn't realize this bishop is an imposter. Moments ago, it went from that square to capture a knight on e7. Surely, Grok would not do the same exact thing. Surely this bishop was really a bishop. Surely the bishop was not a rook. Surely the bishop was not an imposter. The bishop can't go side to side twice. I am so sorry to report that after rook to d7 attacking the bishop, Grok went here. When I saw that move, my heart sank. I was not ready to say goodbye to Stockfish this early. You know, I made the competition. I was ready for a Stockfish versus ChatGPT rematch. You know, there's all those theories that people who run football or soccer or basketball or baseball leagues, they want the big market teams to make it into the finals. You could say that was the same for me. Stockfish did what the only thing it could do. It played king to e5. It marched forward and said, if I'm going to go out, I am going to go out on my shield. Rook e8 check. King to d6. And now Grok played rook e6 check and lost its bishop. And now we are talking. Now, the way you win this endgame is you get as far away from that idiot as possible. You go here and you eat everybody, and then you make a queen. Winning this endgame is easy, but nothing Grok does is easy. And here it played rook e7, and Stockfish took. And now, and now it's a king and pawn endgame. But at any moment, Grok can reappear with a piece. It can rebirth a knight, a bishop, a queen. What is it going to do? Will there be another earthquake on the board? King g8? I don't think so. Suddenly, I think Grok is back to behaving itself. Now, in incredible fashion, by the way, White is still down a pawn. 4 versus 5. Being down a pawn in a pawn endgame with kings is fatal. You lose. But not if you play b3. Apparently, this is the only move on the board that makes a draw, which is crazy. And now Black plays h6. So Grok is still not having any crazy thoughts. Grok is not spawning a bishop or a knight or a rook. He's playing h6, keeping things on the board. Stockfish playing a4. All it has is pawns, right? Now, at some point, White will be able to win if Black is not able to activate the position. The king is the most important piece in a king and pawn endgame like this. And if your king is so passive, it's not good. And now White is very close to winning, to getting that pawn and promoting his own before these pawns make a run for it. a4. And now, in this position, Grok played a5, which is a gigantic mistake because Stockfish plays pawn takes b5, and it is 3 squares away from making a queen. Should anything go wrong, it would be over. Stockfish only has 4 pawns remaining. It can't continue to make any fuss. h5. I'm not sure Grok is going to do anything. b6. I held my breath as I waited for the next move. Will a piece appear? Will something take the pawn out of nowhere? g6. Oh my days. b7. Oh my days. We are 1 square away from queening. Stockfish with the monumental comeback of the century. And here I waited, and after what felt like an eternity, the move pawn to h4 was spat out, and the pawn promoted. And when it promoted, it became a queen. And not only did it become a queen, that is a check. We are just a few moves away. Would Grok have any second thoughts? Well, Grok played king g7. Stockfish went queen f8. And I sat, and I waited, and I held my breath. Would something appear? Would something take? No. King h7. King f7. That's mate. And in this position, Grok played pawn to g5. And Stockfish completed the comeback of the tournament, the comeback of the century, and played Queen G7, mate, advancing to the inaugural Chatbot Chess Championship Finals after 2 unbelievable games. Snapchat and Grok taking Stockfish to pawn endgames, but losing them both. Stockfish awaits the winner of Copilot and ChatGPT. And in a couple of days, we will crown the first ever Chatbot Chess champion. This stuff is better than a movie. Now get out of here.